Remember to like and subscribe. After cheating on me and getting his boss pregnant, my 31-year-old male ex wants the dog back. Sit ready, grab some popcorn, and get comfortable because I'm about to give you details. My ex and I had been dating for a few months when we decided to purchase a pit bull puppy. I was already living with Calvin for this, which I felt was a good idea because he worked a lot and the puppy would keep me company. Now, this is some backstory, but I guarantee it's pertinent to my choice and will hopefully help you understand where I'm coming from. Calvin and I first met in my hometown, where I used to reside with my parents. I fell in love with him and we went to his city, Mexico City, so that I could continue my studies and he could acquire a better paying job. I didn't know anyone in the city, so I had nothing to do but study online since this was during the pandemic. I tried to find work, but my schedule made it difficult. A couple of weeks after we moved, husband and I decided to get a puppy to keep me company. We found one on Facebook, paid for his immunizations and fees, and brought him home, a small studio apartment. Calvin stepped in as provider because I'm still in medical school and couldn't work a full-time job without falling behind or leaving the puppy alone for far too long. We both agreed that he would be responsible for working and paying bills. In exchange, I would clean the flat, cook meals, wash laundry, care for the dog, and perform basic household chores. I was very pleased with it, so it was a win-win situation. Because I was still in school, my parents would give me money on a monthly basis, but they were not thrilled with my decision to move in with this person I hardly knew and had never met. I wished I had listened, but I was too in love with my decision and too stubborn to recognize the flaws in it. Things aren't looking good a few months later, and they're not looking good now. We adored one another yet were so dissimilar. We had a lot of fights. Calvin was extremely jealous and possessive, despite the fact that I spent all of my time in the apartment and only left for errands, the supermarket, and the dog park, almost to the point of violence. I couldn't stop regretting my decision to live in a foreign city alone, with no one I knew nearby, and I didn't want to go back to my parents and hear them tell me I was wrong. Ego is brittle. I persevered because I cared about him. Even with all of his flaws, he adored him. Now I know it was barely love, but it took a lot of work and counseling and drugs for me to see that. A few months later, my school, in my hometown, stated that we will resume normal activities and that I would be there by the fall. He's upset that we have to go, but he agrees to move there as long as I finish school, my last semester. We make all of the preparations and even fly Rocky, my 6-month-old dog, to my hometown. My parents gave us a free stay in a house they own and rent out on the outskirts of town, about a 20 to 25-minute drive from downtown. They were simply delighted to see me back in town and saw me in a loving relationship. Calvin was displeased. I kept complaining about the house, it was old and in need of renovations, and how my parents were just supporting us now since I was back in their town, where they wanted me. I tell him it's a fantastic opportunity because we're only paying for utilities like water, gas, and internet, and the money we'd otherwise spend on rent could go towards repairs, painting, new doors and knobs, renovating, etc. And once I'm finished with school, we could rent it out and keep the money as extra income, with my parents' permission, of course. I even told him we didn't have to remain there and that we could go somewhere else. He eventually agrees to stay only as long as we discover something better. I even went back to my former part-time work. I'm friends with the manager, so she was flexible with the hours because she knew I was still in school, because I wanted to contribute more to our household, still doing laundry, cooking, etc. Not even a month later, I have a feeling something is wrong. He's extremely irritable, more than normal, and anything and everything irritates him. I decided to check through his phone while he was showering. I know, so horrible, but something was bothering me, and it was the first and only time I did it. And I did it. This individual received the last message. We'll call her Leah, 34F. Which I only knew by name since she was his former employer in Mexico City and he would occasionally bring up in work-related talks. She's from another country, say, the one depicted in Netflix's The Crown, and much older than me. She comes from a well-off family and runs her own business both in her home country and in Mexico City. Leah and Calvin had been friends for a long time, and she recently gave him a high-paying job at her company. This happened while I was living with Calvin as well, but I never gave them a second thought. I started scrolling through their conversation, intrigued because they called one other babe, which was unusual. Then there was some sexting, songs he sent me, texting as he would text me, and then I found out she was pregnant. There are images everywhere, some obscene, some of her and her pregnancy. I can't say anything. I couldn't believe what I had just witnessed. Then it hit me like a ton of bricks. Essentially, I am the supporting actor. She was already 6 months along. Calvin and I had been dating for about a year. Early in our relationship, I was cheated on. All of our plans, all of our love, began to shatter into a million pieces in my world. Gone. I was in tears, speechless, and couldn't believe it. Naturally, I approached him. He is embarrassed and in tears. He begins to tell me that he doesn't love her, that she's threatening not to allow him see the baby if he wasn't in a relationship with her. That's why he kept contacting her, sexting with her, and basically establishing another relationship with her. I couldn't think of a single reason why he shouldn't talk to me the moment he found out. How could he have lied to me for months, kissed me, and slept in the same bed as me when he knew something so crucial? He lied to me and continued to make plans with me as if his life wasn't about to alter drastically. I kicked him out after he apologized. I knew he was poor and struggling, but I didn't care and advised him to return to Mexico City, get his belongings, and spend time with his child because he had nothing else to do here. He did it unwillingly. He also wanted to take the puppy back to Mexico City immediately away, but couldn't afford it. I told him to get his SHT together in Mexico City and then return for the dog if he so desired. I was devoted to Rocky, but I still loved Calvin and knew he loved Rocky as much as I did, so I was willing to give him up because I, too, was struggling financially and had to return to my parents' place. I, too, was unable to retain the dog. Calvin travels to Mexico City, then to Leah's home country, where she will give birth. I understand why it never came for Rocky. I moved back to my parents' place, embarrassed and with a 30-kilogram/66-pound pit bull to look after. My parents are angels, and they allowed me to keep him. With my part-time employment, I could continue to care for Rocky. They assisted me with vet visits, food, and sitting as needed. I will be eternally grateful to them for everything they have done for me, my siblings, and now Rocky. I'm not feeling good 2 weeks after Calvin goes. I discover I'm pregnant. I thought the entire world was laughing at me, as if existence was playing the cruelest joke on me. I was also expecting. 2 ladies in the world are both pregnant by the same man at the same time. Sigh. I'm furious right now, mostly with myself and with this man who cheated on me, who chose to purposefully hurt me and then go be with the person with whom he cheated and create a new family. I found out about 2 months in, largely because I was feeling like shit. I assumed it was just depression, the aftermath of a messy breakup. But no way. The morning, and all day, sickness was excruciating, migraines, mood swings, and tears. It was horrible and out of the ordinary. I had a short test and a blood test the next day. Positive. Oh, shit. I called him almost immediately, cursing him and his idiotic penis. We exercised safety precautions, and I was on hormonal contraception. He feels terrible because he loves me, and he claimed he would back whatever decision I made. As if I had the option. I knew what I was going to do the moment I saw the plus on the stick. I understood exactly what I needed to accomplish. I was about to have an abortion. Living with my parents means I have no finished education, no job, no income, and no stable partner. I couldn't do it, and I would never do it to that baby. I've always wanted to bring a baby into the world, into a loving and caring family, and to have the resources to give him or her the greatest life possible. It was not yet time. It was simply not my time. And it was not something I desired. I can talk about it now, but it still makes me cry. Despite the fact that it was the best decision for me, my future, and the future baby I'll have if the conditions are favorable. I don't regret it, but no one gets an abortion merely to have one. I've accepted it and can now see that it was the best decision for me. Calvin supported my decision, but not before attempting to persuade me to have it. And by support, I mean that he said fine to my decision and sent me money merely for the ultrasound, maybe 50 DLLs, I required before the abortion procedure. Keep in mind that I am from Mexico, where abortion is still illegal in most states, so you must be extremely cautious about who and where you go. To put it another way, it is costly but not impossible. Still, the most difficult thing I've gone through had my friends' support, but I never told my parents. I couldn't bring myself to do it because I knew they would have persuaded me to keep it and would have been there for me every step of the way, but it was just not right for me, not under those circumstances. I got through it on my own, with only a couple of my closest friends knowing I needed an abortion and ultrasounds. He's on another continent, living with Leah. The baby is a reality for them, and it is happening to them. No thanks. That was difficult as hell. It took me about a year to recover. To even consider writing about it, therapy and medication, the support of friends, keeping me busy with Rocky in school, I finished, yay, and am ready to begin my internship. Things have begun to improve. I'm still living with my parents and have their full support, even though I have a 60-pound dog that they assist me care for when I'm in the hospital. Rocky's presence was extremely beneficial to my recovery. He is the sweetest, most faithful dog I have ever met. Being the home favorite, he was always by my side, sleeping in my bed. So I dragged myself out of bed every morning and took him for a walk to keep me active in the evenings and joyful at dog school on weekends, because sitting in bed all day was not healthy for a puppy. Or for myself. Rocky is responsible for getting me through all of that crap last year. He continues to do so. Every stroll, every walk, every trip to Petco for his food, he reminds me of how strong I've been and what I'm capable of overcoming at all times. Who are the people worth loving? Kelvin called me a few weeks ago. We didn't talk for a few months after my abortion. I kept an Instagram account for Rocky to upload images since Kelvin asked for some the first few weeks he was gone, and I didn't want to contact him directly, so I told him to follow that page if he wanted to know about Rocky. Of course, I didn't follow or DM him back. I just uploaded pictures of Rocky. He now has a few followers, mostly friends of mine who love Rocky. So, after months of not knowing each other, Kelvin called me. I'll continue to upload photos here and there, but not as frequently as I did in the months following Kelvin's departure. I honestly assumed he'd return for Rocky a week or two after I booted him out. He didn't do it. I became too attached to Rocky, so I believed the dog was now mine because I had cared for him since he was a puppy and is now a year old. Kelvin got in touch with me a few weeks ago. He demanded the dog's return. He stated that he intended to retain the dog, or at the very least rotate him for 6 months. He wanted me to castrate Rocky, then put him in a cage and fly him in cargo for 16 hours on an airline heading for another continent. As a pit bull, he can't fly in the cabin. He also demanded that I pay for it. He made it sound like it was the least I could do after months of support. Let me remind you that it was an agreement we both made, and we both thought it was the best choice for us both, but he made it sound like I cheated him and owed him. I'm absolutely keeping the dog. He is my entire universe. I've been there for Rocky the whole time, taking care of him and doing everything I could to help him live a balanced, healthy lifestyle. Everything from dog school to vet appointments to high-quality food to walks and hikes. I needed to rant somewhere and maybe get some advice on this. Is it okay for me to retain the dog even though my ex purchased it? And even after he cheated and got another woman pregnant? Should I also consider sharing custody of the dog? Is that really necessary? I'm worried that he'll come and take the dog away from me. Or not return it at all. Let me know what you think, whether you think I'm a jerk or what you think I'd do in my situation.